Welcome to an EchoTales production, where ordinary places hold extraordinary secrets. And every story invites you to listen a little closer. Settle in, dim the lights if you'd like, and open your mind to the unexpected. Let's begin with tonight's tale.
Grandpa, is it supposed to move that fast? Why isn't it slowing down?
The story you're about to hear begins in a remote region, a silent space between dying stars. In that vast emptiness, hope is a fragile thing. It can disappear before its light ever touches another world. Some believe that survival depends on strength, while others attribute it to chance. But sometimes, survival comes down to timing. Tonight, you'll hear a tale born of catastrophe, carried across the void, and set upon a path no one could have predicted. No one remembers the exact year. Catastrophic storms and relentless disasters shrouded the world in darkness, wiping cities from existence and rendering calendars useless. People remembered how everything dimmed over time. Seasons became erratic, crops failed, and rivers either dried up or flooded. Entire coastlines sank under boiling seas, and the air grew thin and dangerously unsafe. All anyone remembers now is that the world was dying. For generations, people tried to fix what was broken. They constructed shelters, barriers, and filtration systems to cleanse and preserve what little air remained. Populations relocated inland to avoid rising sea levels and moved outward again when the ground cracked beneath them. But some catastrophic events are beyond avoidance, and some outcomes are inevitable. In the final years, as environmental conditions declined and extinction became imminent, a bold and risky plan took shape. With their world unable to sustain life, relocation became necessary, and abandoning their dying world was their last chance at survival. So, a vessel was constructed, a towering structure of metal and circuitry assembled in the last safe valley that was untouched by toxic storms and collapsing lands. In this valley, the air was just clean enough to breathe, and the ground remained stable beneath anxious feet. Around the clock, dedicated individuals guarded its perimeter, driven by hope for survival. Engineers poured every ounce of hope into the endeavor and dedicated extensive hours to its completion, while families volunteered their efforts, carrying the weight of love and desperation. Children were the first to be brought aboard, their wide eyes reflecting both wonder and uncertainty. Their parents accompanied them with hearts aching of fear and hope. And when the final seal was welded and the great vessel stood ready, others followed, elders with trembling hands, workers who helped assemble the very walls they now entrusted with their lives, scholars, healers, and artisans. Each stepped across the threshold with the quiet understanding that they would never walk their home soil again. Last to board were the designated crew members, chosen for their temperament, steady minds, disciplined hearts, and the courage to wake first in whatever future awaited them. They paused at the entrance, taking one final look at the dying horizon behind them. We'll return shortly with Act 1. Inside the spaceship, thousands were placed into a deep, dreamless sleep, surrendering their hopes and fears to the silent, years-long journey it would take to cross the void in space. They laid in rows that stretched endlessly, farther than the eye could see. Each chamber was sealed in frost-lit glass, while its occupant remained suspended between a life that once was and an undefined future. The expansive vessel drifted through space in the silent dark, humming a faint mechanical pulse, like the lonely heartbeat of an immense creature. For a long time, longer than any calendar could measure, nothing changed. The sleepers slept, the spaceship floated through space, and all operations were managed exclusively by automated systems. Robots glided through corridors with gentle movements, powered by advanced, complex circuitry to work efficiently. They adjusted temperatures to regulate the environment, monitored health and vital signs, maintained engines, and performed necessary repairs to mitigate the effects of wear on the ship over time. They served as caretakers, navigators, and guardians. These robots consistently ensured the safety and well-being of all individuals aboard the vessel. Then one day, the ship trembled. Lights came on overhead, each igniting in sequence. The robots paused mid-stride, processing the sudden influx of new data rushing through their networks. Something changed. A shift had occurred. There was identifiable development on the horizon, both quantifiable and attainable. The sensors transmitted this information through calibrated light pulses that indicated the presence of a world. While it wasn't nearby, it remained within practical range. The robots responded immediately. In the central chamber, 8 pods gave off a faint, soft glow. Their lids hissed as the pressure balanced. Condensation gradually thawed the frost on the glass surface, while inside each pod, a figure began to move. A shaky hand reached upward. The first awakened crew member blinked at the dim light, with breath fogging the glass. They watched as the robot overseeing their pod lowered its mechanical arm and pressed a glowing interface on the side to open the chamber. With a soft, metallic sigh, the chamber slid open, letting cold air sweep across the polished floor. One by one, 8 crew members emerged. They squinted and gripped the sides of their pods, like newborns discovering their surroundings. They had trained extensively for this, but time inevitably can transform even the strongest training into something delicate. Their muscles trembled, and their lungs ached at the first unrestricted breaths. Their eyes burned from the long sleep. A figure stepped forward, rubbing warmth into stiff hands.
How long has it been? That many years?
Check the scans. Is there a habitable zone ahead?
The robot emitted a positive beep to signal confirmation. Although the world was far away, it remained within reach. The 8 crew members exchanged tired but hopeful glances. Ever since the ship emerged from the ruins of their dying home, they only focused on survival. Now, for the first time, they had something greater to cling to, a sense of purpose, direction, and prospects for their future. They exited the chamber and walked through the ship's corridors, passing rows of frozen faces, resting gently against the glass of their slumber. The overhead lights grew brighter as they walked. It was as if the ship itself recognized their return. On the command deck, the robots formed a semicircle around a central console. The crew members approached slowly, still regaining their strength and composure. They reviewed the data collected by the sensors. A planet, blue and temperate, laced with oceans and land masses. A spark lit in one crew member's eyes.
It's beautiful.
Could be our new home.
After countless years marked by decline and despair, the sight of a vibrant world stirred an emotion deep within them that closely resembled hope. They stood there for a long moment, staring at the distant blue planet on the console's display. Everything they'd lost and everything they were meant to save seemed suddenly within reach.
Set a course. We need to see it for ourselves.
The robots responded promptly. Engines whirred and lights flickered on. The ship shifted ever so slightly as it began its steady descent toward the distant planet. No one on board could have imagined what lay ahead or what would confront them. We'll return shortly with Act 2. In the days following their awakening, crew members conducted thorough observations of the distant blue planet. Each scan, reading, and data analysis consistently indicated that the planet exhibited signs of vitality and supported active ecosystems. It hung in its orbit like a precious stone against the deep backdrop of space. The planet had breathable air, a stable climate, liquid water, and cloud cover. The spaceship changed course slowly, but its large mass prevented a rapid approach, even at top speed. A smaller, maneuverable spacecraft was needed to slip into the atmosphere and gather information. They prepared the scout vessel. It was compact and specifically designed for excursions, with room for only 3 passengers. In it, they packed scanners, containment units, food supplies, and emergency relays. The robots helped with preparations, gliding silently through the bay. They sealed the hull and fueled the engines. When all was ready, the 8 crew members stood in a semicircle around the smaller aircraft, with their breaths fogging the cold air of the launch bay.
We'll bring back what we find.
Get close, get samples, and get home. Simple enough.
If this world truly is what it appears, we'll find out shortly.
The hatch closed securely and the engines started. The scout vessel detached from the bay with a low, metallic rumble. Through the thick observation glass, the remaining 5 crew members watched it drift out. A tiny fragment of hope breaking away from the parent ship. They stood shoulder to shoulder in silence until the small scout vessel angled its nose toward the planet below and ignited its descent thrusters. For a moment, it gleamed like a falling spark. Then it was gone. The 3 crew members inside the small vessel felt the shift at once, the sudden pull of gravity, the trembling of the hull, and the rapid flicker of the heat shields activating. A low groan echoed through the cabin, and the air vibrated with the staccato hum of machinery straining against the descent. The atmosphere rose up to meet them like a wall of fire. Each held their breath, hearts pounding, bracing for what came next. Fear and anticipation mingling in the tight space as the unknown drew nearer.
Hold formation. Keep the angle.
There's warnings. Thermals are climbing faster than expected.
It's slipping. We can't hold it.
But there was another strong jolt, a violent one, as warnings blinked across the console. Gravity pulled the small vessel sideways, and panic surged as alarms blared through the cabin.
We've lost stabilization.
Pull up! Pull up!
The hull groaned like something alive. Heat poured in through the shields in molten waves. The small vessel spun as control panels sparked and died. The transmission cut out and, in an instant, the small vessel plummeted toward the surface, swallowed up by flames. We'll return shortly with Act 3. Far below, in a quiet field bordered by tall grass and late evening shadows, a boy sat beside his grandfather, tracing shapes in the dirt with a stick. The sky stretched above them wide, clear, and settled into dusk. A streak of bright light tore across the sky.
Grandpa, look! A shooting star!
The old man raised his eyes, but the moment he saw the angle, the speed, and the burning trail slicing through the fading blue, something hardened in his expression. That wasn't a falling star. The light brightened, gained weight, and widened into a shimmering plume of fire. The boy, still smiling, squeezed his eyes shut to make a wish. The sky cracked open with sound, a deep, splitting roar that rolled across the field and shook the ground beneath them. The trail of fire dropped behind the distant trees, then vanished in a harsh, violent bloom. A second later, the shock wave arrived. A tremor ran under the soil, and birds burst from the branches in a frenzy. The boy's smile faded.
Grandpa?
That was a wild one, wasn't it?
They stood there as the smoke cleared and calm returned to the surroundings. Their view of the area beyond the trees was blocked from whatever was ablaze. The only thing left was an eerie glow that painted the distant skyline. By morning, local farmers discovered the crater. They described seeing molten metal, unusual scorch marks, and debris that was unlike any human technology. Rumors spread quickly, sparking widespread speculation. Yet, as days passed, officials gave no explanation, and the story eventually faded. But high above the atmosphere, the vast spaceship quietly drifted onward. Within it, 5 remaining crew members gathered on the observation deck, waiting for a message that never arrived. The instruments flashed without purpose. There was no sign of a returning aircraft, no flare and no coordinates, just silence. The remaining crew members stood in stillness, facing the console. They communicated as they always did, silently through mental connection. Thoughts flowed between them like gentle waves beneath the surface of water.
They're gone. They didn't make it, or they would have made contact by now.
The primary objective remains unchanged. Secure a new host planet and subjugate local life as needed to ensure survival of our population.
The 5 remaining crew members understood these instructions. They etched them into mission directives. The long-anticipated arrival, which had been meticulously prepared for and eagerly awaited, was nullified before it began. Below them, the blue planet turned slowly, quietly, and blissfully, unaware of what had nearly happened. They looked down at its stillness, the oceans, the swirling white clouds, and continents that were carved by rivers and time. In a farmhouse, a boy still talked excitedly about the star he saw fall from the sky. His grandfather listened and nodded. Neither realized how close Earth came to visitors, seeking dominion, not refuge. And when the giant vessel above finally drifted away, with engines humming low, no one heard it passing. We'll return shortly with our final thoughts. The world didn't acknowledge threats it narrowly avoided, and history books didn't document danger that died before it could utter our name. The skies above remained as innocent as they always seemed. Grass eventually covered the crater in the distant field. Local children played nearby, while farmers plowed around it. And as years passed, its distinct features blended into the landscape, until it was simply just another dip in the ground, largely overlooked by those passing through. Yet the truth sits between events that occurred and what nearly transpired. On occasions when the night sky is especially clear and a streak of light becomes visible, one can't help but wonder how our world might have changed if that initial arrival achieved a successful landing. This has been an EchoTales production. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's story. Join us again for more intriguing tales from the shadows and the spaces in between. There are more mysteries waiting just beyond the quiet. Until next time, keep your eyes open.